Good morning and welcome to this live broadcast. This morning on BizCheck, we look at two conversations: the state of the publishing sector here in the country, how it has evolved over the years. This even as the East Africa Education Publisher celebrates 60 years of existence. How has that landscape looked like, especially in the advent of technology and, by extension, artificial intelligence? We'll do that in this first hour. In the next hour, we navel gaze on the risk advisory as well as insurance firm for just basically in this ending 2025. How have they done to protect the Kenyan corporate, particularly when it comes to various themes and areas like climate and insurance, the well-being of Kenyans in the corporate sector, issues as well of cybersecurity and the threats therein? That is what we look at in the second hour. This is BizCheck. Welcome to this live program. I'm Doreen Arange, and for our first conversation on the publishing sector and the country, how it has evolved, I'm joined by John Kiriamiti, who is an author. You know him for some of his books, like, for instance, My Life in Crime, as well as various other books that he has written and published. John, welcome to this program.
Thank you very much.
Now, you're just telling me earlier that you've written many books, and your book, like My Life in Crime, was written way, way early. You're even telling me even before I was
born. I think so, yes. I think way before you were born.
All right.
Because actually it was even published while I was still in prison.
Which year was this?
That was in 1984.
Indeed, it's true. It's true. 1984. So this was My Life in Crime.
My Life in Crime, yes.
All right. Let's just at least go back a bit and begin by your writing journey. At least walk us through who John Kiriamiti was. At what point did you feel the zeal, need, and want to start writing books before we go further?
Well, I've always been the same person, John Kiriamiti, and that's all I know, except that I was once arrested and sent to prison for a very long time. Fortunately, my sentence was slashed. I remained in 14 years, which I served. And while I was there, I read a lot.
While in prison?
While in prison.
For these 14 years?
For those 14 years.
Okay.
And actually, I am even proud to tell people that I was the first person to introduce education in Kenya prisons. I remember I was imprisoned with some cattle rustlers from Pokot who didn't know even to write their names. I felt pity for them and thought of starting to let them know at least how to write their name. And that's how it started. That's how education started in Naivasha Maximum Prison. And then, while there, I continued reading widely. Although it was illegal, we were not allowed to have books there. I would have some smuggled in and I would read at night. That's how I became a writer.
Now, for the benefit of our viewers who would not perhaps be familiar with who John Kiriamiti is, maybe they just hear of him in history books or in history lessons, maybe just tell us, what was this that made you arrested those years back then, and which year was this, and the circumstances surrounding that?
It's interesting, but for those who have read my works, already know why I was imprisoned. It's because of bank robberies, which happened during mid-60s and 70s.
So
yeah, I was arrested with the entire gang and imprisoned for 28 years. But fortunately, the law court cut short the sentence to 14. It said that it should run concurrently, which means those were two charges, and each had sentenced for 14 years, totaling 28. Then it was slashed, and we served 14 years.
Which year was this?
That was in 1971.
1971.
Yes, that's when I was sent to prison.
That was when you were sent to prison, and then you served 14 years.
14 years. But then, as I was about to complete 14 years, I was released out of good behavioral change. Yeah.
And this was all around issues of robbery, violence that had sent you.
Yes, even if you read my first book, you see, during those years, there were so many cases of robbery violence. And then it involved banks only. That was during that time.
Yeah, because majority of us have really interacted with you in news, just in as well as those stories were being told much later in later years. But then again, who was John growing up? Just to tie how this came into issues of robbery and violence, the arrest and subsequent becoming an author and writing such impactful books like My Life in Crime and various others. But who was John growing up?
Oh, John was a son, and he's still a son of two teachers. My dad and my mom were teachers, so even when we were small, we were very well disciplined. But I think you beat your kids so much, and they get used to those beatings and become ruled. And I think this is what happened to me.
Okay.
Yes, because I even dropped out of school when I was still in Form 1. And I never went back to school. In fact, the kind of education I have today, I acquired it in prison through reading books. And there came a time when you were allowed to receive books from outside. Even there were some who were allowed to do journalism who were there. And I joined them. I did journalism while I was still in prison. I actually even got a diploma in journalism. And even when I left prison, I started freelancing for national newspapers, like The Nation, The Standard, and others. For some time, yeah.
Okay. So you can safely say you're a journalist by profession.
By profession, I'm
and writing, reading is embedded in you.
Yes.
All right.
Because if you told me to write about anything, you only need to tell me I want this, and I start writing.
Okay.
I would like to mention, like when I wrote that book, Son of Fate, and I wish you had them. Yeah. It sounded a lot. And even readers complained and said that I finished the book as if I was in a hurry to put the pen down. So I decided to write a sequel to the same book. This is how I came up with the Sinister Trophy. And I wrote it in 3 weeks and handed it over to my publishers.
So basically, your book, My Life in Crime, is one that is mostly known. This was written just after prison, after the 14 years, during that prison period. And what was that process like? At this point, what was going through your mind?
No, I was only thinking about how I could let people know that crime does not pay.
Okay.
And fortunately, I need to mention that the person who introduced me to my current publishers is the late Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o. He's the first person to read my work where it was still in pieces of papers. And I even remember him saying he was fearing that he could not be able to read those papers. He could not read them because they were in pieces, small pieces. Then he continued saying when he started reading, he could not put them down. So even as I understand my publishers are enjoying their 60 years in publishing, I feel very proud of them, because if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would be who I am today.
And even talking about his publishers enjoying 60 years of publishing, just to remind you, you are expecting the Chief Executive Officer, East African Educational Publishers, that is Kiare Kamau, but due to unforeseen circumstances, he's unable to be here. Nonetheless, we are here with John Kiriamiti, who is an author, just talking about his journey in the publishing sector, as well as looking at how this entire sector has changed and revolutionized over the years. But also, John, you said that your first works, like for instance that Your Life in Crime, as well as some of the other literally works that you've done, one of those persons that really believed in your craft then was the late Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who would read those, shall I say, pieces of papers.
It was so small.
What did this do to you as a young author, writer then?
I just wanted to write what I had in mind. No, but after reading so much, for instance, I always like quoting some writers like Mwangi Chelo, the late Mwangi Chelo. When I read his book, Across the Bridge, I noted he wanted to write about crime and life imprisonment and how life in prison is like. And I really pitied him because he didn't know what life in prison was really like. That's why I decided to write. You
had lived it?
I had lived it. I wanted to tell him, no, don't try in any way to praise prison because this is the worst place one can ever be. That's why I wrote about prison. And as you can, maybe you already know, my last work, as for now, is my life in prison. I wrote that book, My Life in Prison. And that's the fifth work EAP has published for me. And I'm hoping to write another one because I have the sixth one, the abduction squad. But I'm not talking about this.
What has been
Abductions that are happening here is some abduction that happened some time during Moi regime.
Yeah, this is what you hope to write. But
It's already over. It's finished.
You finished
it's
writing
with my
it?
publishers. I think they are going to publish it any time.
Then tell me, John, I'm really reading a lot of you having an affinity towards crime writing, My Life in Crime, as you say, My Life in Prison, your last work, what's now with the publishers, Abduction Squad. What is this, should I say, liking just around issues of crime, prison, abduction and the likes? Why is it revolving around such?
But it shouldn't surprise you.
No,
if I'm telling you I became a criminal, I was only a minor. How else would I?
No, one would assume that perhaps after My Life in Crime and the way it was such a big book, this was it, message was home.
People don't change. Don't think that I've changed much. Don't think that you can slap me and I turn around.
Let's not think you've changed much.
No.
What's that supposed to mean?
No, it depends on how you take it. It will tell you that you cannot slap me and expect me to run away from you.
All right.
Yes, I hope to reiterate and do it very badly. Because I know there's some belief I have.
Yes.
And I think you agree with me if I asked you, have you stolen a pencil while you were in school? A pencil or a rubber or something that did not belong to you, and even a socks while you were in separate, did you?
I don't think I want to answer that.
Please do. Because if you want our listeners to know that you are, have you done that?
Stolen a what?
Anything, even if it's a rubber.
No, me, I've not.
You have. But anyway, let me agree with you.
Okay,
but
I have.
I want people to know.
Yes.
You have.
Yes.
Actually, now I'm talking to a thief, but a retired one. You did not go ahead. It's like education.
What is the veracity of that?
Someone would drop out of school while still in study one.
Yes.
Others will continue even to university. This is what happened. That's what happens even in crime. I would have dropped while I was still a teenager, but I continued.
All right.
But however, it doesn't mean that you are a criminal. You become a criminal when you start doing it repeatedly and doing other things that are not. Because I even tell people, if you go to maternity wards, our mothers give birth, you will not see a word written that this one for mothers who give birth to criminals, to doctors, to professors. Children are brought and born all alike. But as they grow, is where the difference comes. Some continue in the school, like you had asked me, having had two teachers as my parents, and the beatings I got made me become a radical. This is why I even decided to run away from home. So you see, you don't have to be very harsh with your children. And when that happened, there was no turning back.
Ordinarily, one would expect that having parents as both teachers, such disciplinarians, you turn out very good, very disciplined, but this is, in your case, and your story was the exact opposite. So it depicts something entirely different.
Yeah, because those days, there were so many crimes, and teachers looked like angels. Behaved like angels. Everybody deemed a teacher like someone very important in the society. So when they start beating you, you feel like, no, this is not the thing. In fact, that's what happened to me.
And I know very shortly we will be heading to just try and understand the publishing sector as a whole then and now, because you've written in those days, you're also writing now, especially with your recent book, we'll do that. But I also feel it's very important to understand your journey, your works, and how this has led to what we have now. Perhaps this is where I'm really staying a lot into some of this, your literary works, and also just try to understand why it's more about issues of crime. But you've let us know very well that people don't change. They rarely don't change, and sometimes just instilling this knowledge in them at least would make someone be a better person. Maybe not all that better, but a better person to society.
But if you remember, completed my work with saying crime does not pay.
Yes.
And this is why I give a very good story and eventually end up with someone going to prison or being punished. So this tells everybody that crime does not pay.
All right. Crime indeed does not pay. Now, your book, My Life in Crime, were you surprised at at the kind of reception it got?
Yeah. I did not expect that.
Why? When the society is the same as is.
I think people like crime.
Why do you think people
sometimes
like crime?
Because when you write a crime work, they would read it, they would buy it. Look at the way the book My Life in Crime has sold. Again, the sequel to My Life in Crime, My Life is a Criminal. To be honest, I've written millions out of those works. Those two books. Now look at it being filmed. The film rights have been bought 3 times. And I think it's not an easy thing to produce a film out of a book. But I know it has already been bought 3 times. So people like reading about crime, not to become criminals,
yes,
but to know what happens to one's life after indulging in crime for so long.
All right, I hear you. Now, when you look at the publishing landscape, John, over the years, you wrote in the 70s, 80s, you're also writing in this 21st century. Just first of all, from that bit, let's try and understand, how was it then and now? How do you just juxtapose these 2 seasons of life as far as writing and publishing is concerned?
It's very easy these days. Like I told you when I was told to write a sequel to Son of Fate, I did it in 3 weeks. But when you write on pieces of papers and actually with a pen, and not necessarily a pen because you don't afford pens in prison, it's a pencil, which you can hide or throw away when there comes a charge. These things are very different. And I think I should even mention here, maybe you know or you don't know, there is a lot of, I don't know what you call it in English, because I see people are now reading it from, what do you call that literature? Reading from of course, the phones.
Yeah.
And some have copied my work and are selling it. Selling my works on phone, so you go read it. I've tried to talk to them, but they cannot. Yeah. So I would like even people to know, if you see someone's work and it's not the one who has done it on, what do you call that?
Piracy?
No, not piracy. When you are reading from...
E-books.
E-books, yeah. Exactly. If it's not by the author, you know you're reading pirated work.
And that has been one of the biggest challenges in the sector.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah. To what end has this affected you? Because like you mentioned, when you try and compare how it was then and now, there's a big difference. You talked about Son of Fate and how you did it in only 3 weeks. You can't compare to how you did My Life in Crime and your other earlier works. It took time and time on end. So it means technology could be a good thing and a bad thing. Where do we draw the line?
Well, only when people become trusted. But you know they like cheap things. As I said, most of them are thieves. You know, stealing doesn't necessarily mean stealing money.
Crime comes on board.
When you do work like that, when you pirate someone's work, you are a terrible thief. Only that you are doing it with the current technology. So I would advise people to read hard copies until the publishers decided to go that way, to go to e-books.
Is that viable in this time with the advent of AI and the advent of e-books? Much as this is what you'd call for?
It would be horrible. It's good to have hard work, to write it, to have it where, of course, it's not everyone who can afford a phone. So, like, I don't know, some of you people who are grown in town don't know what's happening to those in Lisau. Because they don't have anything, they don't have the TVs, they don't have even phones, headsets. So they have to read that hard work, printed work, yeah.
As an author, how has this affected you?
Well, I lost, but since I cannot estimate the loss,
yes,
I cannot say anything about that.
But it has largely affected you as an author.
Yeah, as an author, you feel, and like you see someone even telling you, I can say to you this and this and this, you read. Some of them don't even know when they are talking with me. And they tell me, they will send me, there are groups that do it. And when I come and join the group and advise them, well, there are groups that listen to me and stop doing it. But not all.
No, not all.
And after all, they cannot put the whole work there. No. They will make some pages and you wouldn't know.
So in your view, what needs to be done? Because truth be told, John, as we continue living, technology is sort of becoming the order of the day. And now with the advent of artificial intelligence, is even making it sort of better or even worse, depending on how you really want to look at it. So this is not something that is perhaps ending in the near future. What can be done? So then also authors, publishers can feel safeguarded, honored with their work.
That's a very good question. But then with us, you only depend on our publishers. And they try a lot. They tell people not to do that. And they are the only people we can depend on, because I cannot be able to reach more than the people I know. Yes. But the publishers will reach everyone.
So as an
and I think they are doing that. I quite agree with them. And then let those who are doing that know they can draw a prison sentence out of that. And they would be
it's
very
crime,
lucky.
because that's crime.
It's crime. And they would be very lucky when because if I reach them, they wouldn't like it. They would pay me to the last cent.
If you reach them, they wouldn't like it. Okay. I know your works are not just surrounding crimes issues, but much of it is that. But again, take us through what inspires you as an author to come up with the pieces and works that you
It's much reading. Reading helps a lot. Like I remember, you read, like I told you, I read about Monkey Chelus across the bridge, and so many things that are left out. I've read even the likes of Sheldon, Ludlam. You need to read widely in order to become a writer. And then, when you read the likes of Ludlam, you know they are writing about things from their point of view, from what they know in their, what happens where they are. So all you need is do it and change. Now, bring what you have to your place, to Kenya, where people will understand everything you talk about.
Read widely to become an author. It's all about reading. It adds to your knowledge. Do you feel as though this is something that perhaps is missing, especially amongst the young generation, and to what extent?
Yeah, it's very interesting because they don't read. They don't read, but they only read when they hear that there is a book which is interesting, and they start borrowing. In fact, most of my fans tell me that they read it when they were in school. And they tell me, like in a certain girls' school in Kahuya Girls, where my current wife was a student, they would tear the book into pieces. While you're reading page 1, the other one is reading page 3 or 4, like that. They would share it in pages. Now you see, they cannot wait for you to finish the book and then pass it over. And at the end of the day, it becomes rags. So you see, we are talking about one book being read by over 300 people. Instead of thinking of buying one yourself and having it for your family, your siblings, you want to read those pieces.
So basically they just read for the sake of reading because they're in school, because it's a
they're
requirement.
in school and they have those pieces to read.
Yeah.
But when they come out sometimes, you find that they come looking for the book, but then, most of them cannot afford. I know of friends, even help them because they could become 5 of them would want one book. They go for one book, and then I told them, now go. When you have bought 3 books, I'll give you 2 free of charge. So I help them that way.
Just to give them morale to
keep
read.
them reading.
Why do you think that is so amongst the young crop?
Well, the young criminals you're talking about. Yes, that's what they are.
Okay.
But then they change. If they read the book and really understand it, they will learn that crime does not, and they will run away from that. Because you cannot say crime pays while you understand people are being sent to prison for 30 years, and today they are sentenced to death. So you at least crime does not pay, and this is not something you should even think about as a young man.
What I really want to get from you, John, is when you look at the young people, in your view, why do you think there's the disinterest in the reading culture? Because you just did say that read widely, not just to become an author, just also to be a knowledgeable, smart person, but that is sort of lacking.
But it's because of the changes. Like, look at what you are now. During our time, you didn't have a place like this, where you are talking and everyone is listening to you. Then live something. And like we said, today's technology is all over. You see, like I have my grandchildren, sometimes they even show me how to operate my own handset. So you see, this is the kind of generation we have.
They change in time with the advent of technology.
They have changed to something else.
All right, I hear you.
So unless the government thinks of something else, watakuwa tu wanaona what they saw, what they said, what do you call this, one time, when they went out there.
Okay, I hear you. And the Chief Executive Officer, East Africa Educational Publishers, is here. That is Kiarie Kamau. He's just getting ready. The moment we have him ready, we'll be bringing him on board to just also walk us through the journey of the publishing industry. 60 years since the establishment of EAEP. Across in Kenya and across the region, how has that journey looked like in the publishing sector, bringing on board young people in the publishing sector, and also looking at the advent of technology? How is this affecting, or by extension, revolutionizing the publishing industry as a whole? Kiarie Kamau, as I mentioned, is here. But before we get to Kiarie, still on you, John Kiriamiti, just in your view, storytelling as a whole, whether through the books written or through conversations like this, how would you say this is changing the landscape of how people communicate and interact with each other?
Well, this is a new era. We've changed completely, because it's easy to get to thousands of people in a minute, while during our time, you wouldn't. Yet, the people are used to it now. You cannot go back to those years. In fact, if you don't have the kind of technology you have today, you look old-fashioned. And this is the thing. And these are the people now we have. The kids, like even those who are now 2 years old, know how to use a mobile phone. Something that we didn't even know about. So the world has changed, and we have to move the way it has changed. And maybe there are those who see like we do a lot, people like us, but the time will come when we'll look like old age and we'll be dumped in the dustbin. Okay. So you get the point. Time will come when the 2-year-olds are like our age, and then you will not have the likes of us on earth.
I hear you. And I'm really drawing a lot of technologies here with us. It is here to change. For those who embrace it, the better for them. But also there's the flip side of it, especially how it's affecting the sector. And I'm seeing as though is that middle ground. How to get a balance is where the challenge is oftentimes. But then just as you marinate on that, Kiarie, just before we get to technology, take us back a bit to 1965, the 60s, so to speak, when East African Education Publishers was sort of established. How was it like, and how has that journey been in the publishing sector over the years, 60 years later of celebrating this entity, powerhouse of EAPA?
Thank you very much. I must say that it has been quite an exciting journey, stimulating, so to speak, but also with its fair share of challenges. Way back in 1965, when this company started, it started as a British-owned company called Heinemann. And that time, it was not doing local publishing. It was mainly depending on imports from the UK. Then the books would come here. They would be distributed in Kenya and some parts of East Africa. But blow by blow, in the 1970s, when our late chairman, Dr. Henry Chakava, joined Heinemann in 1972, he started now local publishing. And it is that local publishing that has brought EAP to where it is. So Heinemann, 1965, all through to the 1980s, and come 1992, Henry Chakava was able to marshal like-minded entrepreneurs in the area of education and publishing to buy off that British multinational Heinemann, and hence rebranded the company to East African Educational Publishers. So in the 1960s and 70s, we were very well known, especially because of the African Writers series. You know, publishing of iconic African authors like Chinua Achebe from Nigeria, Cyprian Ekwensi, also from Nigeria, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, our very own here in Kenya, and later incorporating other authors from other parts of Africa, Okot Pabitek. I'm sure you have interacted with the Song of Lawino. Yeah. People like David Rubadiri, people like Taban Loliong of South Sudan, among very many others. So we built a very formidable force as the publisher of the finest literary works in Africa. And fortunately, we have been able to sustain that kind of trajectory. Yes.
Over the 60 years.
Over the 60 years.
So it's been a journey, and you can also look back and say, this is where we came from, and this is now where we are. A lot to celebrate as far as publishing is concerned in Kenya, and by extension, the region.
Indeed.
So those challenges that you mentioned, just talk to us about a few of them, and how EAEP
yes.
stood the test of time to still stand firm as a powerhouse and entity in publishing across the region.
I must mention that one, it was not easy actually to transition from a British-owned entity to a fully locally owned entity, East African Educational Publishers. You know, there were certain business-related challenges that goes with you know, all mergers and acquisitions. Yeah. Fortunately, we were able to navigate that terrain. Secondly, all through, even when our author here and my friend John Kiriamit was being published, yes, there was still the menace of book piracy. His book was a hit. The moment it was released, people were queuing to buy copies of the book. Yeah. But sooner rather than later, counterfeit copies were available, you know, in the streets of Nairobi because it was very popular. That piracy has continued to plague book publishing in Kenya and in other parts of Africa and the rest of the world, even to date. We lose hundreds of millions every year due to piracy. Secondly, the issue of getting incentives from government is a big issue. You know, we have always endeavored to build a strong knowledge economy, a strong creative economy, to encourage reading not just for exams, but actually reading for leisure, to build broader perspectives, to build broader knowledge. Unfortunately, books continue to be expensive thanks to, you know, VAT on books, among other taxes that are levied. We have continued to lobby the government to remove the VAT on books. We have not yet managed to do so, but we are not relenting in that fight. The other one is general, you know, lack of a strong, vibrant reading culture. And it has been made worse by advent of other media that distract people from reading. Again, we are not giving up. We say the reason we keep on publishing books across the board, storybooks for children, young novels for young adults, full-length novels, biographies and autobiographies, is because still there is that critical mass of readers. And the onus is on us as publishers, as authors, as lovers of the book, to continue promoting a reading culture. We should not give up.
I hear you, and you've really outlined a raft of those challenges, but nonetheless, still standing strong as a publishing entity.
Thank you.
But one
now,
thing...
would you allow me to commend him for one thing that I know you remember?
Yes.
Because Kyari Kamau is among those who have tried to fight the piracy.
Okay.
I remember one day we went to a certain source in Kirinyaga Road. He posed as a teacher, and I directed him to where we knew the source was. But I don't know why, because he was so smart, they suspected, this one cannot come here too. And they hid the books. We had even gone to the place, to the source of the counterfeit books. But they got twice. I think they thought this man cannot be a teacher. He's someone like a spy. You remember that time?
Let me add a light touch to what my friend John here has just mentioned. I do remember it was around 10 a.m. And this man put me in a very dangerous spot where we went into a very dark bar down the, and 10 a.m. it was full and people were already drunk. They were still drinking. So he encouraged me to have one drink and pose as a teacher. We talked to some few people there, made some orders of books, but somewhere along the lines we started seeing strange characters coming, looking at us, going, coming, looking at us, and we had to literally bolt out of that place. Well, those are some of the dangers that go, with fighting piracy. It's a very dangerous thing. But again, as I have said, we will continue to fight it and relenting fight against counterfeit.
Yeah. It just goes to explain how deep-rooted this issue is and really how it's affecting publishers. And from your view, Kiara, you'll explain to us to what extent this has affected publishers and even by extension deterred young publishers from trying to get into the craft. But before that, there's something Kiara mentioned, John, especially when it came to incentives from government being one of the main challenges, the main issues affecting publishers. And one thing that would make one publish a book and say it's a bit too expensive for me to continue the next works and all, and perhaps stop at that point. So for you as a writer, as an author, how did this affect you? Was it an easy, difficult journey for you? How was it?
I don't know. It looks like I was a very lucky person, or probably because I was writing factual works from the beginning. I never got anything like that. Each time, and even I became very popular even to the people you're talking about. Most of police officers became my friends. Even today, if I move to a police station, I just introduce myself, you'll be surprised to see the number of friends I'll get from such places.
Yeah, Kiriamiti is a familiar name.
My works were a bit different from what they really looked for. Yeah, so I didn't get in that any kind of challenges.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just minus writing factual works, does it also go down to, say, writing works that can resonate with you and I as an individual, as a human being? Does it go down to that?
Yeah, but when you write, of course, you know you are writing about the kind of characters you see every day. And some don't even identify themselves with the characters you are writing. But that doesn't worry the writer, because actually you don't write about them, but no, you don't even give the correct names of such people. So there's no way they can even think of themselves as the ones who are targeted.
I hear you.
So there's no challenge in that kind of work.
All right. Okay. Now, on that bit of incentives, Kiara, what has been your experience with publishers? So that then we maybe don't have so much as how we would expect, just leave alone the issue of technology and AI, which could be a different ballgame altogether. But that bit, how is it affecting publishers?
First
and how it can be tackled?
Oh, yes. First and foremost, already in the Ministry of Culture, there is a segment of creative economy. That segment is very important to us as book publishers. We are publishers of fiction for children, for young adults, for adults. That segment should be seen to be active, especially when we do book fairs. We hold an international book fair here in Nairobi every September. We also hold a regional book fair, which we take to counties every May-June period. This year, we were in Kisii for that regional book fair. We would want, that segment of the creative economy to participate in such book fairs. We'd be keen to see county governments supporting us in such book fairs. Support in the form of stepping in if it is the issue of any levies, taxes that should be levied for the places that we are occupying should be waived. Support in terms of having the governors, having the minister, having the permanent secretaries attending the book fairs and actually speaking about the value of books, the value of reading, the value of building a vibrant, strong and solid, creative, stroke knowledge economy. We want to see collaboration between the national government and the county governments with the publishers. I sit, I wear another cap. I'm the chair of the Kenya Publishers Association.
Yes.
And at KPA, we are always trying to build collaborations and partnerships. And partnerships with NGOs, with the governments, and with other entities like international bodies. In that building of collaborations and partnerships, we'd be very keen if we strengthened the collaboration and partnership with the creative economy. We have been we collaborate with other book fairs in other parts of the world, and one that is very exciting is the Sharjah International Book Fair. Sharjah International Book Fair is driven by none other than the head of Sharjah. Opening ceremony, quite a number of sessions, prizes, and so on and so forth. That is the kind of thing that we'd like to see, because in order for Kenya to compete favorably with the developed world, we must develop the knowledge economy. It stands first.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Now with your other cap as the chairperson, Kenya Publishers Association, you normally have the Nairobi International Book Fairs.
Yes.
Just from what you're saying, how does that turnout usually look like? To see indeed if we can elevate that reading book culture, or we still have a long way to go on this one?
What we have realized is that in terms of the people who visit, interact with the books, buy books, the children are the majority. We are not complaining. We are happy because catch them young. When they are young, they appreciate books, they value books, they buy books. We are happy, and we hope that they will grow with that love for books. But at the same time, we are encouraging adults. Let these children be accompanied by their, not just by their teachers, but also by their parents, their guardians, and their relatives. Let those adults also buy books, so that when you are seated in the evening or you are relaxing over the weekend, you are reading a book, but not necessarily just scrolling through funny, videos on TikTok and stuff like that. You will also encourage that child to value book. And we are not saying that modern media is bad. We are also trying converting. We are on the road of conversion of our books into modern media. But the print media will still continue to be relevant from the research that we have done for a couple of years to come, here in Kenya and in other parts of the world.
Yeah, one would say it's such an oxymoron to see the children forming the majority in such book fairs, but the older they grow, the lesser they become,
unfortunately,
in such. But just before I come back to Kiriamiti again, there's the question of balancing books perhaps for learning, for school, as well as those for leisure. How has it been over the years in producing or publishing such books? The demand that comes in with that?
Yes, a good question. I think as publishers, the research that we have done is that 80% of the books that we publish are mainly educational books. They are textbooks, they are revision books, they are books tailored for exams. Then 20%, we look at the general reading materials. That is not a good divide. So as publishers, the onus again is on us. We have that challenge of ensuring that we improve on the number of books that we publish, targeting general readership.
Yeah, because 80-20, the margin is really...
Yes, it's
wide.
not a good divide.
Yes.
And that is why sometimes you find that the drive is much more on passing examinations. After one has done exams, and we found very weird situations where students have done exam and then they start banning books. That should stop. That should stop, because doing that examination, finishing that examination, is actually the beginning of even more learning, accommodating more knowledge. And that's why when people graduate, they are given the power to read and to do all that appertains to that degree.
Or sometimes we don't understand what that means.
What appertains to that degree is search for more knowledge, reading widely, expanding one's horizons in terms of knowledge. Yes.
Well said. John, do you think that is part of the challenge? 80% of books produced or published, they're for academia, 20% is for leisure and what you can read to just advance your knowledge. And maybe in your view, how can we change that? Because Kiare says that it's one thing that they're looking at as publishers to see how they can change that. But from you as an author, how can we work around that? So then we can expand and increase the reading culture.
Well, this can only be done from primary schools. But then, as a writer, you have to give people what they want to read. And there are times when you have nothing to tell them. So what I think we need right now are new writers who can identify with the youth we have today. For instance, if I write a book that looks like it's leaning on my side when I was a kid, then I'll be telling a very different story from what we have today. So I think what we need, and I think Mr. Kelly will agree with me, is to have new young writers. And the ground is open for them. I don't know why they don't even try to do it. And I believe everyone can become a writer. If you can be able to read a book and complete it, you can write one and complete. That is something I believe. Because no one is born a writer. And you see, I read my first book when I was still in prison on drugs. And now when I came out, I decided no. I even showed quite a number of people how to write. I have two friends who have also written books, although they have published for themselves. So what I can tell the youth is try, like you try anything else or other things, try writing and you'll be surprised to see how simple it is and how easy it is to do it, especially during this time, when you have everything that you desire.
As we begin to wind down, I'd like to throw this to you, Mr. Kiare. Just as you mentioned, the various other famous authors we've had over time. We've talked about the likes of Chinua Achebe, there's David Rubadiri, our very own Ngugi wa Thiong'o. And as John says, that we also need to have these young writers come up. So I'd just like you to respond to two things. Is it the fact that there's lack of inspiration amongst young people? And if that is so, why? And also on your end as publishers, for instance, how do you identify this emerging young talent and how do you help them?
Thank you. Again, it's very important for us as publishers to ensure that we discover, we develop, we nurture young talent. That is one of the things that at TAP we've been very keen on. And one way is, we get what we call unsolicited manuscripts. The term might not sound very good, but it's because these are manuscripts that come to us from people who have written, and they bring to us either physical copy or they send their email to try to get our interest to publish them. We have always taken very serious attention of such manuscripts because it is from that spontaneous creativity that you get the finest works. Secondly, we go out of our way to commission. Commission is where now we say we want a book that talks about a certain particular thematic concern or certain thematic concerns. So we go out there looking for young, talented authors and we commission them to write. Then we guide them along the way until the work is complete. I must, however, say that we can do even better. We can do better.
Finally, 60 years later, how does the future look like for EA? East Africa Educational Publishers.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
Yes. How does that look like?
It is bright. The terrain, I always say that publishers all over Kenya and EAP in particular, we've only covered perhaps 35% of what should be covered. There is a lot that can be published. People want to write cookery books. They want them published. They want to share their authentic recipes. Are we publishing those kind of books? People want to write indigenous, locally, produced motivational books. Are we publishing them? And so many others. So the terrain is wide. The opportunities are endless. The media keeps on growing,
yes,
thanks to the new technologies. So we, as EAP, must move with the trends, must move with the times, must capture and move with the future.
I hear you, I hear you. I finish with you, John Kiriamiti, as a veteran author, someone who's written in literally different generations. What is your last call, particularly to young, upcoming authors?
That's a very good line you have come across, because I feel, and I always tell them, we must reach the young generation. Right now as we talk, there are two people who have seen me with copies of what they have written and have self-published. But when you look at their works, you see it's lacking something. I would advise them, and those who are upcoming writers, to get in touch with publishers, and they will accept you like their own child. Let them advise you on what to do.
Yes.
Let them edit your work, because they have read so many works. They know what can sell and what cannot sell. You can write a book and love it yourself and think it will be a hit. But then all you have written is what you think.
Yeah.
What you think is good for everyone.
Okay.
See a publisher, and the publishing have those you know. Let them do the reading for you, and then them publish the book for you, so that it may reach as many readers as you think. Like those who have come to ask me for my help.
All right, all right.
With you, like when I asked him the number of books he has produced, so he has produced 250 copies.
Okay.
In fact, I even carried some for Mr. KK here, so that he may advise him.
All right.
Because 250 copies, and then you sell them yourself, you are a non-starter.
It's close to impossible. I hear you.
See,
I hear you.
A publisher,
yes,
and they will advise you.
Thank you.
Again, they will advertise the book,
yes,
and sell it right.
I hear you, Mr. John. Asante sana for making time for us. I have been speaking to Kiarie Kamau on the far left, who's the Chief Executive Officer, East Africa Educational Publishers, and also the Chairman for Kenya Publishers Association, KPA. Right next to him has been John Kiriamiti, a renowned author, mostly known for his famous book, My Life in Crime, and he has well outlined for us here what the thought process and how life was that prompted him to have this book. Asante sana, gentlemen, for making time for us. That is why I put a cap on this first conversation. Remember that in the next hour, we navel gaze on the risk advisory and insurance firm. We look at how the year 2025 has been, particularly for corporate Kenya, and what they have done to sort of like safeguard corporate Kenya when it comes to various issues such as climate insurance, the well-being of workers in the corporate industry, and issues of cyber threats and to what end this has affected them, as well as issues of AI and technology and how this has gone into the corporate world. We look at that in the next hour. For now, we take a very quick breather. We circle back with that. Stay with us.